me, it's been learning the ins and outs of the cameras and the equipment. I didn't realize how much the equipment needs to be updated. I don't use the prompter as much as I thought I would. For me, it's more so talking points, not like literally reading from a script. I typically just like to talk. I've enjoyed so far just being able to come and sit down and film. I also have learned a lot in this whole process. Welcome back, Bomu Besties, to another episode of She Built Success. I'm your host, Claudia. Let's get on into it. All right, so I want to talk about, we're about mid-season for season 4 of She Built Success. And for season 4, one of the new things that I did was create an in-home studio, which is where we are today. And I did that for the purpose of being able to record like my solo episodes more real time. So in the past, I have done it where an episode is, a season is 24 episodes, and I batch record. So I was doing 12 and 12. And so 12 I would do here in the DMV. For those of you that don't know, that is the DC metro area. So that's DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And then I would do the other half, the second set of 12, somewhere else. So we've done Atlanta, we've done Dallas, we've done Northern Virginia, even though that's DMV. Let me see, where else did we do that was not in Maryland? I think that's about it. We haven't done DC proper yet. But anyway, all that to say, the intent for season 4 was I wanted to kind of play with format a little bit. And I wanted to, so what we did was we batched the first half of the season. We batch recorded that. So that included solos and guest episodes. And then the second half of the season, I've been filming in the studio, in the content studio. So when you see this couch, that is where we are. And what I've done so far is kind of just seeing where things have landed as far as solo. So the whole point of my content studio is to be able to come in and just literally sit down, turn on the cameras, turn on lights, hit record. What I found, and the whole point was like no friction. The studio is here, the set's here. Like I don't have to really move stuff. I do have the studio mobile. Like I'm able to move the main C-stand that holds like the camera that I'm looking at now and my laptop and a whole bunch of other equipment that I'll get into in just a second. But I wanted to remove the friction of coming into, sitting down and just recording. Here's what I found so far as my mid-season update. I've done a couple I've done a couple content studio diaries where I was doing my makeup, and lashes and me just were not friends. And so when I try to apply lashes, it's like always a process and we'd be fighting. And so while I do not have friction when it comes to the studio, because I could just push record, now my friction has been like putting on the makeup. Like a day to day, I don't do like, this is like considered a full face. So like the whole foundation and all that other stuff. I don't usually do that when I'm like on a daily. On a daily, I'll throw on some concealer, my eyeshadow, and some blush, and we roll out. Like that's my daily. I don't do the foundation and all the other stuff. And so it was taking me longer to do this full face because there's like for real studio lights, there's like for real HD cameras. Like this is not a fly by night situation. When I met with the team for She Built Success, that's J August Media, we were able to sit down and talk about, the needs of what we want to do to be able to make sure that when I'm recording in studio here at the house and J August Media, so Jay's recording for us, when we're out on other locations, like the consistency of what you get and what comes to the screen is the same, or at least as very close as possible. And so for me, the friction, I thought initially the friction was like the equipment. I did not have the equipment, right? Then it ended up being the makeup because it's like, oh my God, why the hell does it take so long to put on a full face of makeup? Like for me, when I first was doing the full face, and okay, maybe I should also say the other part of the team when we're doing batch recording is Karma's Creations, and that's Aubrielle. She comes in and she's also been on the pod. She was on season 3 as a guest, but she comes in and she'll do my makeup and then she'll do the guest makeup if they so want to get their makeup done. And so for me, it's like, why the hell does it take me so long to do my makeup? So it takes me like, when I was first starting this whole full face process, it took me like an hour and some change to do it. The video's up on YouTube. You guys can go catch it. I'll link it in the description below, but it took me like an hour to do. And I'm like, oh my God, by the time you finish doing makeup, it's like, well, who the hell wants to record? I didn't, but I did it anyway. And so as I've gone through season 4 and just doing these solos and doing my makeup, I've gotten better. So I'm under an hour now. So it takes me about 40 minutes to do this kind of a full face. Lashes, we still fight, but we make it work. And then, so that's kind of the friction point was the makeup part for me. So so now I want to talk about like equipment and what I've been using, what I have, what I haven't been using, I bought and I thought I was going to use. And then some additions that I bought kind of in between. So some of the things you don't see that's offset are like tables and some stands and things like that. I use those depending on what I'm doing in the studio. So not just filming, but just like how I'm using the equipment. But my primary modality for like shooting, filming, making sure that audio sounds good is my FX30 cameras. That's Sony. And one has a 35 millimeter and the other one here has a 16 millimeter lens. The 16 gets my verticals and then the 30 gets this is the main, what you're seeing right now. Those are like a staple, clearly, because otherwise there would be no video. So those I've learned a little bit. I'm not I'm not like 100%. I got all the features, but we dialed it into the point where literally I have it saved as a memory setting. If it ends up changing, like for instance, we did a content or filming in BWI Airport with Women Rock Wings when we did the pink couch interviews, and I had to change settings on the camera and everything. And so I had to come back to the studio and change it back to what it was dialed in for the studio. So for me, it's been learning the ins and outs of the cameras and the equipment. I do have a shotgun mic on this main camera, and that's Schottenheimer, something with an S that I can't say properly. I probably should have looked at it before I started this, but nevertheless. And so we use that to capture as like a redundancy. And then also we have my Shure mic, the SM70 that I'm talking in now, as well as what you can't see underneath is a backup, like another redundancy backup mic. And that's this one right now that I'm using is my Rode Wireless Pro 2. Yeah, something like that. I'll put that in the description too. Sometimes I use my DJI mic. It just depends on which charge and what I have availability for. Or what's available to me. Now, that being stated, let me just say, I didn't realize how much the equipment needs to be updated. Let me just, so the FX30, like in my head, because there's like USB-C ports and there's the HDMI port, I thought that, hey, you just plug in you plug in your phone. Well, maybe not your phone is not a good example because nowadays it goes over Wi-Fi. Anyway, I'm thinking you plug it into the PC, or I have a PC. I'm team PC, not Windows, not Mac, but I plug it into my computer, nevertheless, and it would update. Yeah, no. I found out I have to update it by putting in the SD card and downloading the update on there, and then pushing it into the camera, and then updating it. So I was like, okay, that's a new one for me. And then let me see what else. Audio. So of course, like I said, I have the Shure mics, but it runs into the Rode Duo caster, and I can see the audio levels here. I have two mics. One of them is muted right now because clearly it's just me talking, but I could see my audio levels and like when I go in the red, because sometimes I laugh too loud, and so I could see that in front of me. The other element, so I have this. It's called the Black Magic. I don't remember the whole name, but it's Black Magic. And it allows me to feed basically all my stuff. So like the cameras, I have a monitor. I have a 24-inch monitor that I can see my main camera on, and I can see a little bit of my vertical. I say I can see, y'all. I wear glasses. I don't think you guys have actually seen me in my glasses. My vision's not terrible, but I'm over 40 now, so there's some like fuzziness that happens. And so like I could see me. I'm gonna switch my gaze a little bit. I could see me, but I can see it's not as crisp. Like I can see me, but it's not as crisp as like if I had my glasses on. And so it does allow me to see if I'm making sure things are still in frame. I don't really anticipate stuff moving per se, but it just gives me a visual. Now, I'm going to keep going. Now, I know normally I don't have stuff. You guys don't usually see my stuff that I have on set. I usually tuck it away whenever I'm recording, but a couple other pieces that aside from the cameras, obviously, and the mics and the audio equipment, there is a few things that I do. So one of the things I do is I use my pocket, and there's other types of hardware like this where you can record. It's a tech recorder, but it has AI built in. And so what it allows me to do is as I'm brainstorming, I might think of something for a podcast episode or meeting notes or client calls or just my own talking. It allows me to capture all that. And then it sends me like a digest at the end of the day of all the highlights, action items, if I need to send out an email, like I'm talking and it picks up that in the conversation an email needs to go out, it'll draft the email. It's pretty dope. Now, I will say I'm on the Pro plan, and I was an early adopter, so there's a little bit of a discount there when I purchased the Pro plan. But it allows me to not only go through my notes, get the digest of what happened, but I can. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna keep going. So it has like this checklist option where if it's an action item, I can move it to my to-do list. Y'all remember how in other seasons, and some of you, if you're new, I'm about to tell you this, so peep game. I have this process where if I am thinking about something, I type it into my phone, it pushes over into Airtable, and it creates like a to-do list for me, if you will. I call it my brain dump. Same thing, I can integrate, which I have done, my Pocket. So like if I have action items from a client call, I have a specific place within Airtable that goes to, and it gets flagged as client action items or project action items. If it's a brain dump, like all of that is now also in my Pocket. So in my Pocket, like literally, but figuratively too. But anyway, so my Pocket is one of the things that I use literally daily, day in and day out. Not only for just brainstorming podcast ideas, but also, like I said, client notes, meetings, me talking to myself, that kind of fun stuff. The other thing that I use, and I've talked about this in my planning, like how I'm planning for 2026. My books, Note Air Force C, 4AC. I'll put it in the description. I'm gonna get all these names all the way together. I knew I was gonna talk tech, but I didn't realize I was gonna talk so much tech. But I use this. So I use this to like look at my notes before we typically get here live, or not live, but when we're filming. And I use it, and it's synced with Airtable, so I can see my Airtable podcast spread, if you will, and look at the things and make notes, and so comments and capture ideas again, brainstorm, put down notes for the post-production. So there are things that need to happen post-production, whether it's, something needs to be double checked, or we need to edit a piece here to say, maybe I said something incorrectly, like all this tech stack that I'm totally botching. But I have a whole list of what's in this content studio and what I have purchased. And I'll put it in the link. That way, some of the stuff that I didn't get exactly right by name, you'll at least can see it if you're interested in purchasing it, or just knowing what I use here in the studio. But then there are a lot of like smaller things. So I'm gonna talk about some of the things I don't use in the studio as much. So I purchased the Xenon Edge. And that's by Corsair. I purchased that with the intent of loading Stream Deck, because that's Elgato, loading Stream Deck on it, as well as being able to track the recording time that I'm doing, and shortcuts. So things like the lights that are in the studio, I wanted to be able to record and have light settings. If I needed to adjust something, I could do that via the Xenon Edge with the Stream Deck embed. I don't use it as much as I thought I would. I thought I was going to use it, and here's why. In my head, when we were initially configuring this, and this is on me, in my head, my Stream Deck or my Xenon Edge was closer. Like right now, you guys are about the better of 6 feet away from where I'm at right now. And so clearly I can't reach that. And so I don't get to touch as much as I thought I was going to. And it's not that I felt like I was going to be mission control and pushing buttons while I'm filming, but there was a level of, okay, I can see this a little bit better. And again, not glasses when I film, but glasses in general. So things are just a little bit more fuzzier. So I don't get to use it during, like when we're filming here, but I use it post or pre. So before I hit record, I like launch Airtable. There's like shortcut keys that I can use within my Stream Deck that is embedded within the Xenon Edge. So I use it for things like that. So that's something that I don't use as much as I thought I would, that I did purchase for the studio. I also have the Amaran lights. I use those like all the time. The Amaran 200SX, that is my, what's this? I think it's not, is it a fill light? I don't remember what it's called, but it's the main light that you're seeing now. And then I have another one, which is the Verge Max, that is kind of giving me the bounce light. I'll get I don't know all the technical film terms, but that's what I have. And I use those regularly. But the things that I haven't used regularly is the 2-person guest set. So here in the studio, what you're looking at right now is like the solo space, but there is a space literally directly in front of me that is made for guests. And so I haven't used that yet. And it's not that I don't want to use it. There's still pieces that I need to dial in to be able to have a guest here with the camera. So I'd have to change camera angles and things like that. but I haven't used it like that. I've sat in it, I think at the beginning of season 4 that you might see something in there where I did you will see a solo episode where we filmed in that direction. But as a 2-person guest setup, I have not yet done it, but I plan on doing it. So that's also something I thought I was going to do a little bit sooner, but clearly haven't gotten there yet. The other thing, okay, so I bought a standing desk. That is the third component of the content studio. I bought a standing desk with the intent of doing coaching calls and things from that. That's turned into my makeup table. And primarily because it was quicker for me to do my makeup down here in the content studio versus, in my bathroom. And be able to have the lighting and see all, what things really are going to look like under the lights. And so I turned it into the makeup standing desk, but it is going to go back and it's going to eventually be a coaching space. But for now, that's what it is. And then there was one more thing I wanted to mention. It's okay. So I bought a teleprompter as well, the Elgato. I think it's the Elgato. Yeah, the Elgato teleprompter. And in the beginning of the podcast season, I would mount it to the camera and I would use it as my to keep me on track and not try to sway hopefully too much. But for me, it was becoming more of a distraction, and it works better if I'm talking direct to camera versus trying to have bullet points. So it's me trying to remember all the bullet points. There have been times where I've had to be like, wait a minute, and I go back, or I create another episode because I forgot something in the first or that I filmed. So I don't use the prompter as much as I thought I would. Again, for me, it's more so talking points, not like literally reading from a script. That's just not how I can't roll from a script typically. I typically just like to talk. And let me see, there's a couple purchases that I did not have on the docket that I got. One of them being I have some travel camera bags for the FX30s. That is obviously so when we're mobile, like for instance, when we did the Pink Couch interviews with Women Rock Wings, I wanted to be able to take the cameras and I didn't want like the big hard case, like the Pelican type case. I didn't need all that because I just didn't need it. I needed something a little more light and able to be portable. So I did purchase that. I got a wagon this year. That was not on the cards, but I did get that. And the wagon basically, again, when I'm mobile, it just allows everything to go inside of it and we just drag it, pull it, and it's good to go. And it's actually pretty smooth. It's pretty cool. And then let me see what else was new purchase that I didn't. Oh, I know. So I have and this is offset as well, but I have a clothes rack with all my different outfits. I thought I was going to in my head, it was like, okay, I'll bring a couple outfits down. I can rotate them out. I typically, depending on how the day goes, I'm only really able to film 1 to 2 episodes in a day. And so I don't use that rack as much, but it's there. I do have clothes there if I need to swap something out. But in general, I don't use it as much as I thought I would. Let me see. Is there anything else that I decked out in here that I was like, yeah, you did too much? I will say, I have a fun one. So I learned when I first got the cameras, of course, they come with their own batteries. And one of the times when I was trying to film, I got it was empty, the battery signal that's basically said there's no more power left. I was like, what do you mean there's no more power? Well, come to find out, I should have gotten the dummy batteries, which, oops. So I now have dummy batteries. So that was an additional that I had not initially thought. I didn't even think about it, but here we are. So I have the dummy batteries, and that is what allows for the continuous run of the cameras. And yeah, I mean, for the most part, that's it. I mean, I'd be curious though, if you are thinking about a content studio, even if it's a corner in a room, which is perfectly fine. What are some of the equipment that you would actually put in it and why? I can pull, and like I said, I'll put a full list of what is used here in the studio, but I'm actually curious. I've enjoyed so far just being able to, with the exception of the makeup part, come and sit down and film. But I also have learned a lot in this whole process, especially with having to manage all the equipment. So yeah, let me know if you were to create a content space, what would you put in it and why? All right, Bold Move Besties, I will catch you on the next episode of She Built Success. Bye.